So this is session 1 of 3 of the new Star Trek Adventures from Modiphius or Modiphius. I don't know how you pronounce that, and so I'm going to butcher it for Lloyd. Anyway, so what we're doing is we are playing with the characters that are from the Quick Start, because that's the first available pre-gens that they've given us. We are not actually playing from the Quick Start Adventure. We are actually playing from one of the adventures in the collection To Boldly Go. We're starting out with that one because they have some very nice adventures and they're very, very interesting, diverse set of things. So this is Modiphius's 2D20 system. For those of you watching on the Hangouts, we're also playing with Roll20, though not much exciting is going over there besides the rolls. Anyway, this is Star Trek, and I am setting this just past the original series. This is after the 5-year voyage of the Enterprise, and so this is a setting where the Klingons are still at war with the Federation. The Romulans are a weird, kind of unknown threat. People don't know everything about them. We've had that war with the Romulans, but they're still a little strange. We don't know everything about them. We've got the neutral zone established, but they're still a wild card. A lot of the other races and things that we would encounter in later Star Trek, like the Cardassians and the Bajorans and all that, are present. But they're very much sort of low-key in the background, which is why we've got essentially a Bajoran crew member, and we've also got a Trill and so on in and amongst the crew. Star Trek is a little campy. The original series is a little more campy than the later show. But in this, I want to kind of stick to that sort of the Star Trek vision of things, that you guys are good people. There's a prime directive. You've got those things in the back of your mind. We're playing definitely within those tropes. And if you play to those, the game will reward those. You will note that none of the options for PCs were the captain. The game deliberately does that. Essentially, the captain's kind of an NPC figure that sort of stands in the background, and you guys make your sort of own decisions about things. So that's part of the system. It's also kind of complicated, so be prepared for that. So a couple last things. This is a Gauntlet Hangouts game, so we will be using the X card. X card is a good default easy safety tool. Everyone here I know I've played with before, so you're familiar with it. Again, if we hit any subject matter or tone problems, things like that, that you're not digging, you feel free to X card it that way or in the chat. I will give an example from Rich's experience here, where he was playing in a game and somebody described a warehouse and it was full of boxes, and he X-carded that because that was incredibly off-tone and boring from what should have been happening in a Star Wars game. So that's just an example of how you can do tone. So we're going to take a break at the midpoint. We play till about 10:30 Eastern. We'll take a 5-minute break. If I haven't called it by the midpoint, we will. Somebody needs to tell me. We'll get to a good stopping point tonight, because I don't think we'll get the adventure necessarily finished unless you guys defy all possible expectations. Generally, I'd like to hold off Roses and Thorns until the second session on these 2- and 3-shot games. Any questions or any problems, any issues on that? Hearing none, I will move on. So about to talk about a couple of things. In this game, the basic resolution system is 2d20, because that's better than 1d20, right? It's 2d20. And if you'll go to one of your character sheets, the basic deal is that you've got a set of attributes and disciplines. Attributes are your base stats, And then disciplines are the different areas of the ship functions. So any role is going to be made under an attribute like command, or sorry, like control, and a discipline like command. And what you're trying to do is whatever that total is, like let's say that total is 10, you're trying to roll on those 2d20 a 10 or under on each of them. Each roll that you make under that is a success. And that's how the difficulties are measured, is the number of successes. There are things that can get you extra dice. There are things that can get you rerolls, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I want to walk you through really quickly how the automation works on this. If you'll go ahead and click on one of your attributes, you'll see that there's a pop-up on Roll20 when you do that, and it'll give you the discipline. So you'll then pick whichever discipline you're using. You'll hit submit. It'll ask you for your dice pool, which will almost always be 2d20. Submit. And then, just to make it even more complicated, if you have a focus, you'll notice those are on the right-hand side of your character sheet, that's applicable. You can say yes or no there. Generally, you're going to be saying no. When you hit that, you'll hit submit. And then you will get your number of successes. You might ask why they have it in 2 boxes when it's the same number. They have it in 2 boxes because it's showing the dice that are going on there, showing what's effectively being successed on each dice, each die. So is that clear as mud? And you might be going, oh my God, at this point. I was the first time I did that. Damage dice work a little bit differently. I'm not going to talk about that until we come to it, because that's a whole can of worms that I don't necessarily want to deal with. But there's one other piece of system that I want to mention to you. Hey, Josh. If you make a roll, any kind of roll, and let's say I say, okay, your difficulty is 1 or your difficulty is 2, and you get more successes than that, that gives you what's called momentum. That's extra points. The group can store up to 6 momentum, or if you get extra momentum on a roll, extra successes, you can spend those right away. If it's an attack roll, a common thing is to do extra damage. If it's a discovery roll, a common thing is to ask for more information, to spend that momentum right away to do that. If you don't spend it on that roll, it goes into the everybody can use that. I'll be reminding you of that because it's kind of an important system for the game about building up that momentum and doing things. If you ever want to do any of those purchases for extra bonuses and you don't have momentum, you can always do that, but give me threat, which essentially is my currency to buy soft moves and hard moves against you. But we'll stop when we actually get to rolls and checks and things like that, and we'll walk through all of that stuff there. So if you guys don't mind, I'd like to have you talk about who your character is and how you see them. Josh, can I actually have you, our Vulcan medical officer, who you are, what your name is, and how you picture this character?
So her name is Tapril. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Just went with the name that was on the pre-generated thing.
Okay.
Medical officer, where she spends most of her time, working in the infirmary or, going out on missions to make sure everybody stays safe. she, very much Vulcan, has the, gone through the purge of emotions and all that. So, I see on my values here, it says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Somebody may be getting left behind by me if it saves the rest. So,
Awesome. And you are the solid Vulcan bedside manner medical officer.
oh, yeah.
All right. Rich, can you tell us about your character?
You bet. I am playing the con officer. Her name is Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang, and this is her first assignment, and it's amazing. Her values are to fly the ship and know the ship. She's constantly studying the manuals, learning as much as she can. Propulsion is a science. Navigation is an art. There's always something to learn, and she has the drive for discovery. So she's very excited to be here.
Awesome. And Khan is the essentially the person at the console, and a human, right?
Oh yes, she is human.
Okay. Next, let's talk with Steven. Can you tell us about your character?
Yeah, I'm playing Henardell. He is the chief engineer, lieutenant. He is Trill, a joined Trill. And I think so. He seems to be craving adventure. He pushes the limits of the adventure, limits of what's going on to its limits. Always trying to stretch things a little bit. But whenever it comes to the ship itself, he's very sentimental about it. It's almost as if it's a child. The only thing that I see, there's mechanical stuff on here about momentum and where you roll a Star Trek symbol or something. One of the things that's interesting is that since he's joined, he has a symbiote, and once per mission, he can declare that a former host had a specific expertise. So I can get a bonus focus for that. And I can get an additional D20 under engineering tasks. So.
Classic stuff.
Yep.
Sounds good. And let me have Victor tell us about his character here.
Okay, I am playing the science officer, Lieutenant Natella Denobulin. Their family's kind of been the lifelong Starfleet family members, kind of all the way through. Values. So Natella kind of sees safety in numbers as a big thing. Discovery is what is it? First step to discovery is the theoretical. So kind of goes out on a limb to kind of find something new, interested in variations of things and other species, and also kind of sees themselves as the voice of the crew. So kind of takes a step forward when needed, kind of to be the glue for the team that they're on a regular basis. So
awesome. So again, one of the artifacts of the choice of player characters is sometimes, even though it might not make as much sense in terms of real logic, story logic will dictate that the four of you go places together. That's TV logic on these things. So just keep that in mind. So you are aboard the USS Gauntlet. It is a Constitution class starship, mid-model there, and has been in service for some time. But it's just been had a full refit done and a full change out of crew. And so you are leaving from Starbase 4. This is the first big mission that you were doing. Captain El Tanin is the captain of the ship. This is not her first assignment, but certainly the first assignment at a ship of this size. This is, about 500 people aboard a Constitution-class ship. You've got photon torpedoes. You've got shuttle bays. You've got phaser banks. You're a ship of exploration. You're beginning that 5-year voyage. And so we would go, and there would be the voiceover at this point, the captain's log. And in fact, they actually give you a little captain's log to read. So I'll read that. We leave Starbase 4, ready for what's out there, for what lies beyond the edge of known space. She's a fine ship with a fine crew, one of the best in the fleet. I could not be more proud to be their captain. This 5-year mission into the unknown is one we prepared for all of our lives. To be honest, it promises to be a fine adventure. And then, of course, if we saw this on screen, we would see the ship flying, and we would see a planet in the distance, and we would see a weird high-budget special effect of a distortion there in the distance. And we would cut to the voiceover of the captain, and the captain would be saying, "Captain's log supplemental. We intercepted an old-style automated distress call from an old Starfleet vessel. Could the descendants of survivors from an ancient shipwreck be alive somewhere out there, marooned on a strange planet? I wonder. The science officer has traced a signal to its source, an M-class planet. The star system is uncatalogued and unique in my experience, as it orbits an unstable wormhole. We have just arrived and will begin our investigation." So with that in mind, we will cut to you guys, and you can say, we have a planet. They've picked up a distress call from there. And you can talk about what you want to do. What they have typically is somebody could say, "Oh, I want to try and do a sensor sweep, or I want to do this thing, or I want to look into that." It means that the people who have some of the sort of ship tech things are in a little better shape to do stuff, but we can work with that. So let's actually start with you, Rich. Let me have you make a roll to start here.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't you make a insight plus con roll?
Okay. An insight plus con roll. I can do that. That's no problem. And of my focuses, can I have a little more idea if maybe I have a focus that applies here? What are we rolling for?
Oh, so one of the things is as you're coming in, I want to have you get a sense of what the effects of this wormhole are on the system and on the ship.
Well, I think that my focus on propulsion systems and subspace physics might apply here. What do you think?
I think that's perfect. And so you can say yes when it asks you for your focus.
I was right there on that drop down. So I've chosen that, and I have gotten 3. Is that right? 1 and 2, or
yeah.
Total? Okay. All right. So 3 total successes.
So it's a difficulty 1 task to sort of get the basic information here. So you've got 2 momentum that you could add to the group's pool, or that you could use to get more information. The wormhole is strong. It has a strong gravitational pull, and it is clearly affecting the planet and the space around it. You have to spend some time compensating to get that into position. You and your fellow con officer are working to make sure that you can hold an orbit there.
Captain, the gravity well here is unanticipated. We're compensating. I think I'd like to go ahead and give some bonus to the team pool.
Okay. Then what I will do is I will take that little die thing there, and I will put your group's pool at 2. Okay.
So I have a question for you, Lowell, mechanically.
Absolutely.
If he rolled 2d20, how did he get 3 successes?
So what he did is he had a focus.
Uh-huh.
He said yes under the focus thing. What that does is if a die rolls, if you have a focus with something, then you actually look at your discipline. You see how that's a smaller number. So his con is a 4. If he has a focus, then if he rolls that number or below, it gives him 2 successes as opposed to 1. So that's why you want to make use of those focuses, is to give you extra success chance. Let me turn to our science officer.
Yes.
What do you want to do? How would you approach this situation? You've got this, you're now in orbit around this planet, got the wormhole there, we've got the signal from down below. What do you want to do?
I think I want to kind of analyze the signal, see whether it's genuine, and see if I can find a location for it.
Absolutely. So why don't you make a reason plus science task?
So reason.
And because you've got the ship's systems assisting you, I'll give you an extra D20 on that roll.
Okay, so that's a 3d20 then.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm doing sensory type stuff, sensor operations, would that come into play? So I have a focus. And we go ahead and hit submit. And we do really well. Yeah, no.
So you may notice that there's a red 0 there.
That's exactly where I was going to ask.
A red 0 means you rolled a 20 on one of your dice. That means that essentially there's a complication.
Cool.
So you'll begin running the sensor array here, and you'll realize very quickly that the gravitational waves, once you sort of engage that, actually seem to be disrupting the sensors. You're able to get readings, but it looks like they're going to have to do some repairs to the sensor array to get it to be fully functioning. It's going to be more difficult to use for a little bit. So let me tell you what you will pick up. It's definitely an old style Federation signal, like pre-Federation. So good, 100 years ago kind of signal, very early days here. There's a debris field in orbit and also down on the planet itself that seems to be, you would guess, the debris of a Romulan ship, just based on the details that you're picking up. Whatever's down there, you think it's probably a shuttle pod, like one of the early model ones. It's not giving off too much else, so it's clearly functioning in low power mode. But it is still operating. No indigenous life forms that you can detect, but definitely one human near that crash site.
Okay. I think I'll report kind of what I'm coming up with to the captain and kind of suggest because of the circumstances in that this kind of pushed our sensor arrays kind of to their limits here, and we've definitely got some work to do, and maybe we can beef up the sensors a little bit and get better readings later.
All right. And we'll turn, the captain contacts engineering.
And I think at this point, Hunter will I think I'm going to focus in on the debris field and I want to see if what the status of that debris field and possibly the since the sensors are kind of having issues right now.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how well we'll be able to see what the shuttle, looks like. But basically, what I'm looking for is when this damage was done, how it was done, if there's more than one ship there, that kind of information.
That seems like a reasonable thing. So that's going to be reason plus science.
Okay. Click. Science. And I have a focus for damage reporting procedures.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. Yeah, let's give that a go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got 3 successes, which, given the problem with the sensors, made the difficulty 2. So you've got an extra momentum. It definitely looks like it's an old style, pieces of an old style Romulan bird of prey.
Mhm.
Up here in orbit, there's bits and pieces that say to you that clearly they had taken some pretty hefty battle damage. And it looks like the bulk of the bird of prey crashed down below on the planet, though it looks, just judging by this, devastated. And again, timetable puts it at about 100 years ago or so.
Okay.
Does that seem like reasonable info?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever we save momentum for the rest of the group, does that mean that they can just use it for any of these functions later?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Do you want to do
Let's
that?
go ahead and do that as well.
Okay, then I will tick the momentum up by 1.
Mhm.
And the captain will contact you, T'Prel. And Lieutenant T'Prel, I need you to get your kit and head to the transporter room. We have a possible survivor from a crashed Federation vessel down below on the planet. I'll be sending a team with you, but I want you to take lead on this.
All right, will do. Any interesting life forms down there other than this person?
We're not picking up any major indigenous life forms, but exercise caution. The sensor array is somewhat offline, so we're not getting the best of information.
All right, we'll be advised. Heading to the transporter room now.
And he'll turn to you, Lieutenant Natala. I want you on the team as well. We're also going to need an engineer to see what we can make of the shuttle pod. So Lieutenant essentially calls down to you, Stephen, Lieutenant Dell, and says, head to the transport room. And Lieutenant Commander Zhang.
Yes, Captain.
You indicated that you wanted to have a chance at away team duty.
Yes, Captain.
All right. Hand the con over to your colleague and head down to the transporter room.
She hops out of her seat. She's all about this.
And so we will cut to the transporter room. And again, old Star Trek. There's the sort of walk-in pad, sort of glowing. It got the circles on the floor that you have to stand in. We've got the officer behind the controls there, a red shirt, who's getting ready for all of you to head down, and all 4 of you are there together. Let me ask this now as a curiosity. So, since you were the last one, Lieutenant Zhang, of the other three here, which of these other three officers have you worked with the most?
Oh, definitely. Natala and I have worked quite a bit on. There were some. We were in a nebula, and I was able to fly her around so she could take some readings from some of the areas that were a little dangerous for the ship.
Excellent.
Yes, some small scale research treks.
Exactly.
Lieutenant Teprel, you're Vulcan. You've got a very good eye for people. Which of the three colleagues that you have do you think is perhaps the weakest link, as it were?
Um, hmm. That's a tough question.
Oh yes.
I'm going to have to go with the comm officer just because she doesn't have as much experience.
So you're a little surprised that the captain decided to send such an inexperienced officer along on the mission.
Yeah, seems like the most logical one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And Lieutenant Dell, which of these people here would you most want to sort of spend your off-duty time with in the below decks?
I think it's definitely the con officer again. She's quite excitable, and it's very easy to get her, I think, inebriated and let the hilarity ensue.
I know a lot of Venusian show tunes. I'm from Venus. I will sing.
And then me and Teprel can kind of make fun of her.
I have no idea they're making fun of me.
And Lieutenant Natala, what's your concern right now? I mean, you have this alien planet. You've got these signals. What's most on your mind?
I think what's most on my mind is that where our team is going to go in a little underprepared and a little over aggressive. A little more measured steps would probably do us better.
Okay. All right. Well, the transport officer lets you guys get set. You have your standard equipment, tricorders and phasers and communicators. No comm badges. Got to pull out your communicators and flip them open. So that's an important thing. And there'll be the sound, which I probably should have had like a little audio tape of that. I'll have to remember that for later, of the transporter going on. And we'll cut to a planet which definitely does not look like the rocks are made of foam and such around. There's a weird bluish tint to the landscape. The sky itself has a kind of a weak yellow appearance. You can see that when you land in the distance, you can see the wreckage of the Romulan ship. Maybe there used to be a forest there, but it's just kind of a jagged landscape. The vegetation, flora and fauna around here, everything seems to have that bluish look to it. You will see some small furry animals that essentially see you, one-eyed little like squirrel things. They spot you and take off as you move around. Looks like there's some tectonic activity on the planet, which you didn't necessarily detect before. and there's ash definitely in the sky that suggests to you that there's some minor volcanic activity going on here. And up ahead, you can see the ruins of that ship, as I said, and the shuttle pod next to it. So, medical officer, how would you array and proceed now?
I am going to be very much like looking into all these plants and things, making sure none of them are poisonous or, some sort of harmful. If there's some kind of carnivorous plant or something, make sure we stay away from whatever's dangerous as we move ahead.
That seems perfect. Why don't you make a reason plus medicine roll for me?
All right. So I kind of missed that part earlier when I was having all the issues.
Oh, sure. So what you're going to do is open up your character sheet, and you'll just click on reason.
Okay.
And then there's a drop down, and at that point, you'll drop it down to medicine.
Okay. I'll just hit submit.
Yeah. And the next thing it will ask you is, I believe, how many dice, right?
Yes.
And you're going to say 2.
Okay.
And then the last thing it's going to ask you is, do you have an applicable focus? Do you think that you have an applicable focus for analyzing this kind of plant matter and stuff around here?
One of my focuses is vigilance.
Ooh, okay. Then let's say focus yes.
Okay, so focus. All right. And now where did it go?
It's over in the far right-hand side, and it looks like you got 2 successes, which is what you need.
I see where it is.
Oh, so if you look over on the left-hand side, there's the little bars for chat and art library and so on. If you click on chat, it's actually in the sort of chat window for Roll20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See that now.
So much precious screen landscape. There's a couple of things that you will note here. One is that this moss is rapid growth. Even in the time that you're kind of looking and examining, it's definitely growing. There's a lot of it on that shuttle pod that you can see from here, and like the door has clearly been kept clear, but it's all over the place elsewhere. You'll also stop. There's some water or liquid around that you can check and analyze, and it definitely has some psychotropic chemicals in it.
Hmm. Yes.
All right, let's go on.
Warn everybody of that. Don't drink the water, and things might not be as old as they seem because this moss grows so quickly.
Awesome. So we've got you other 3. What are you 3 doing? Who wants to go next?
So I think Hannah Dell actually, looks around. So are there hills around or trees or something like that?
There's definitely a knockdown tree-like blue sort of gathered wood of some kind. It's rough terrain. The tectonics around here mean that it definitely got hills and such around and about. So there is definitely cover around here.
So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just go up to the top of one of these hills. I'm going to pick one that's pretty structural, appears to be structurally sound, and just kind of get a lay of the land to see if I can see it around this area.
Okay, let's have you roll insight plus security.
Okay.
And then I'm going to come to our science officer and our con officer.
That's
So one success, right? Okay. The blue moss is around and about in patches in a lot of places. You will see some evidence, some like worked wood and things like that, that suggests to you that there's definitely, I mean, it got signal that there's a human survivor, and there's definitely evidence of that, but you don't see them. But other than that, the volcano's off in the distance. Doesn't look like there's any other sort of immediate threat or other structures or things around and about the area.
Okay, and nothing like a cabin where someone would have lived for 100 years or something like that.
No, not that you see.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll report back to the medical officer.
Okay. So let's come to our science officer and our con officer. I'm going to remember names. I'm going to eventually get those down. Lieutenant Natala and Lieutenant Commander Zhang. What are you two doing?
Do you want to maybe be working on something together here while we're kind of checking? How far out is this ship? Are we close to it? Or
I assume you've moved over close to the shuttle pod.
Okay, so Lieutenant, can you come over here and give me a hand with this? And we're going to move some of the debris and kind of look and see if there's signs of somebody being there, like within hours versus they left and set up another place. So kind of sort through the debris. So, yeah, can you help me with some of this? I want to move this plating that's kind of off. And
of course, Lieutenant.
So I think as we're kind of moving things around, maybe checking to see if anything was set up as a shelter here, or if the structure itself looks sound.
Okay. Let's have both of you roll either reason plus science or reason plus engineering. And based on your successes, I'll give you information. How's that sound?
Sure.
We'll pool that together.
I'm going to do reason plus engineering.
And I'm doing the reason plus science.
And I've got shuttlecraft as a focus.
Oh, then definitely.
Okay.
And I don't have a focus that would really
all right.
pertain.
Looks like I have one success.
Okay.
You have two.
And I have two. Yes.
So it definitely got three of these. There are several things that you pick up. One is as you move around, you're scanning the debris that's around, because the Romulan craft debris is not that far away.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick up the trace radiation and such that indicates to you that, yeah, that's old style Federation weaponry, that kind of damage that's taken. Most importantly, yes, this shuttlecraft seems to have been used very recently as a shelter. The moss has clearly been carefully kept away. There are makeshift tools inside that are clearly used as scrapers to scrape away the blue moss to keep it from going over. It's got that smell inside of a living quarters, and it's, imagine that sort of primitive Robinson Crusoe style, little pelts, and they can see there's like a somebody, they're trying to build another bow, and they've got makeshift arrows and that kind of thing. It's very much set up for that.
So they've been here a while.
They've been here quite a while, and but this is the thing that will seem strange to you, that both of you will note, is the the date on the logs here on the ship, what you're seeing, the sort of the standard engineering logs that are still there, put the date at about 100 years ago that this landed. But the chronometer on the ship, on the shuttle pod, says that it's been 6 years.
Very interesting.
Could you imagine it, Natala, being stuck here for years? I wonder if the replicator works.
I don't think the replicator would work quite that long.
Can you imagine having to
I mean,
cook
look at-
food?
Well, yes, it is work. But it looks like they've adapted. I mean, there are tools here.
Sure, right. I'm sure they had a manual.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not just one individual. That amount of time on for one individual on a planet like this is just that's wearing.
You think it was a family?
Well, I don't know. Are there any indications that this looks like it's one individual or more? Can we
This
tell?
looks
from what's in here?
like a single individual.
Huh.
Has that kind of look to it.
So we when we encounter this in this individual lieutenant, we're going to have to be cautious. They haven't seen another person in some time.
Okay.
Wanted to come in and talk about the psychotropic properties of the water here. Anyone who's been drinking them, especially for a long period of time, could very much be dangerous and out of their mind without even realizing it. So we should be careful here.
So you think there are long-lasting effects on the brain with the chemicals?
I can't tell here. I could get some samples back to the ship to see, but I would imagine so if you've been drinking it for a long period of time. I mean, judging by the ship, it's been 100 years, so this person may have been raised only drinking this water.
Yeah. That does bring concerns up. Yeah. We're going to need to be cautious when we encounter them. Something like this, they may not see us as help when we run into them.
I'm going to cut from that shot to you guys in the thing with our chief engineer having gotten up on a rise to survey the area. And you're coming back down, but you're by yourself right now, Del. And you'll hear a shoop, and your shoulder, right in your red shirt, will spring an arrow. And you're going to take 2 points of stress.
Okay.
And you'll hear it hurts, but it doesn't knock you down. And definitely hear, there's the sliding of rocks as whoever fired at you goes to get into a better position. What do you do?
I immediately, so I'm kind of in an open area on a hill.
Yes.
I think I drop to a knee, kind of facing where the arrow came from, and open my communicator. So the other 4 know that I've just been hit by an arrow. I'm taking fire.
And you'll get that on the comm, the communicator, that sound. So we'll cut to our medical officer as your chief engineer reports in. He's under fire.
Even though these are primitive weapons, they can still do a lot of harm. We should go help them as soon as possible. We all need to stick together.
So what's the play from you three in the shuttle?
I'm gonna check out and see if the shuttle's operational in any way, perhaps we can locate this individual.
Interesting.
Cool.
I will tell you, given your skills, as you start to go through it, I won't even have you roll, Rich. This seems like a mundane task. This shuttle is barely functioning. Looks like all of the power for the shuttle has been put into that distress signal.
Okay.
That's all it's doing, and it's running that battery, and it's got some solar panels, and it's just running that. He's had to live with no power, no electricity for God knows how many years.
I'm so having nightmares about this later.
Absolutely. So, and what about our science officer? What do you want to do?
I'm gonna head quickly over to the door. I kind of know where our engineer had gone, and start kind of scoping the terrain to see what I can see between here and there. See if I can see what's got them pinned down.
You're definitely seeing that up on a ridge line. It looks like there's a movement, and you guess there's someone up there with a bow.
Okay.
Okay. T'Prel, what do you want to do?
There's no time to hesitate. We need to go out there and help him. If you two want to try and go get the person with the bow, be careful, but I'm going for our man that's on the ground.
If I can, if you point if you find our assailant, I can work my way around. Try and work my way around behind. I'm going to put my phaser on stun and see if I can catch them unaware.
Okay, so you two are heading out of the shuttle.
Yep.
You're kind of trying to move at an angle. T'Prel, you're moving over to where your engineer is. Let's cut over to that engineer. What are you doing? You took an arrow. That person is still there. You don't have great cover. What do you want to do?
I think at this point, I'm going to say, I'm going to speak and say, stop. We're here to help. Please put down your weapons. And at the same time, I'm going to pull out my tricorder and start seeing if I can pinpoint the life sign of whoever shot this.
Okay. So your primary thing is attempting to maybe calm them down, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you roll presence plus command?
So one success.
You're calling. Yeah, one success. You're calling out. You're shouting to him, and he's clearly not having any of it. And you will see that T'Prel is heading your way, and you can see that your science officer Natala is kind of moving at an oblique angle. And this guy is going to pop up and take another shot at you there, Del.
I think I'm going to dive out of the way, trying to draw his attention as much as anything else.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, you already said you're kind of dropping for cover, and that makes sense. So I'm going to raise the difficulty of him trying to hit you.
Okay.
Roll, and then he gets his rerolls. So he goes to fire at you, but his attention is drawn at, by T'Prel coming running up towards you, and his bow snaps. And he sees the two of you kind of moving there, and he starts to fall back towards where you're at, Natala.
Does it appear as though he sees me, or
Hasn't seen you yet. He clearly, his bow snapped with that 20 that he rolled, and he is falling back. It looks like he's going to try and get away, maybe come back to murder you guys in your sleep later.
Well, I'm gonna get close enough to him and then kind of shout at him, "Hey, halt! Stand still! You're not. We don't mean any harm."
Let's have you make a command plus presence roll.
Okay, let's see how well this goes.
Yes.
So presence and command. Yeesh. Don't really have anything that fits for focuses, so we get 2 successes.
Wow.
I am impressed.
So you don't stop him, but you do get him that he hesitates and doesn't come and run and drive this makeshift knife into you.
Okay.
Like he starts to come at you, and then he hesitates, but he's still got that thing menacingly up.
I'm going to make sure he's aware that I have a phaser pointed at him.
You realize he may not know what that is, given it's a new style weapon. He may guess that it's a gun, but because flashy lights are often pretty scary. I'm going to at least fire it off at distance. I'm going to miss him. I'm just going to fire it and tell him, "No, I'm serious. Stand where you are." To Prell, let me cut back to you real quick. What are you doing? You're kind of moved over towards where your engineer is. You see that guy take off towards where Natala is. And then there's phaser fire.
At the moment, I don't think that person is as much a threat to Natala as much as this wound is to our engineer. And, who knows what it could have been poisoned with the water or whatever. So I want to head to him and start trying to work on his wound dealing with that arrow.
Let's have you make a reason plus medicine roll. This is actually a good thing to take care of right away.
And I do have a focus in emergency medicine.
Then that's perfect. I'm going to cut back to you in just a second, Rich.
You said reason plus medicine. Oh, whoops. And let's see.
So that looks like 2 successes, right?
Yes.
And that's just enough. You will get over and do the spray hypo, get the arrow out of Dell's shoulder, and as you're doing that with the medical tricorder, you realize that you're glad you did this so fast, because you can already see that some of the spores from the moss and stuff is already kind of getting in the wound and kind of infecting it.
Yeah, need to definitely take care of that.
Okay. Zhang, you realize that you're not going to be able to do anything to the shuttle, and then you hear phaser fire.
Oh, exciting and a little nerve-wracking. I'm running out of the shuttle, and I'm going to try to catch up to wherever this is going on. I don't know where to go.
You can run up. You can see that the phaser fire seems to come from where Natala is, up on the ridge. There might be somebody up there with her.
Natala, are you all right? I'm running up to catch up to her.
Okay.
Everything's fine up here. our assailant hasn't moved. They still. I'm gonna kind of yell. They still have a weapon. So stay at your distance.
You'll kind of move up, and Natala, this guy goes to run. Not he goes to take off, sort of run at an oblique angle to you. He's clearly going to try and head for the hills.
Yep.
And vanish.
I'm gonna stun him.
Okay. Then let us have you roll control plus security.
Control plus.
Oh, sorry, daring plus security.
Okay. Daring plus security. Okay. Submit.
So we'll say that the difficulty is 2 on that.
Okay. Yay. It's another miss. This one unintentional.
So you will fire it off. Zhang, you're the next closest. You see that Natala tries to phaser stun him and misses. What do you do?
I agree with her logic. It makes sense that we can question him after we've detained him. So I will fire too. I'm probably at a further range. Luckily, this is a laser.
Yes. Still a difficulty of 2. You have some momentum, so you could, for example, if you wanted to add a bonus die.
I would very much like to add a bonus die.
Okay, then I'll reduce your momentum by 1, and you can have a third D10.
This is daring plus security, is that right?
Yep.
And I have a bonus die, so I'm rolling 3d20.
Yes.
I don't think this guy has anything to do with avian breeding.
Nope.
Okay, so I don't have a focus that I think applies. Well, that's 3 successes, though.
3 successes. So you will hit him, and there's that, and he drops, nice. Hit by the phaser thing. He's not in the best of health, so the stun will take him down, and the 4 of you can kind of close in on this guy carefully, and you'll hear the to prowl.
Yes.
This is Captain Eltonine. I need you to get everyone back up here to the ship right away. That wormhole, it's pulling us out of orbit. And that's where we'll take our 5-minute break. And that's the commercial will come up at that point, and we'll take 5 minutes and we'll come back.
Nice. Okay.
So let me, when we come back from commercial break, to Prowl, you've gotten that call, and essentially the captain's log will come over and will say, inexplicably, the wormhole has increased in size, drawing our ship out of orbit. More troublesome is that we have 4 crew members down on the planet. The question is, will we be able to transport them back? And we cut from there to you 4 plus an unconscious guy. He's bearded again because it's a old Star Trek thing. It looks like a spare costume from a Robinson Crusoe set. Okay, sort of sewn together leather skins and so on. And there's a little bits of his old uniform on there, not like your guys' stuff, but old style Federation stuff from a long time ago. Though it looks like it's only like 6 or 7 years old, not the hundreds of years that you would expect it to be. So let me come to our engineer, because he kind of got the short end after getting shot. He sort of got the shaft, as it were, on the last scene. So let's have you start the scene here now, Lieutenant Dell.
So the doctor's with me. She got a message on her comm.
Yes, we'll assume that everybody's together at this point.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So basically, I think that we should try to get out of here as soon as possible. Have the ship beam all 5 of us up, right? I think that's what we we need to get the ship out of danger right away, sir.
To Prel? Affirmative on that? You're muted. Sorry.
Yes. I actually probably send a call back to the captain saying, if we do not reach our point where we can transport back, and in 5 minutes, leave us behind.
All right. And we'll, there'll be the cut to you for rushing to get to that the beam down point. Let me ask our engineer, Lieutenant Dell. There's all this gravitational wave interference. They're going to have difficulty transporting you up. Give me your technobabble solution to the problem.
So I think what the ship has to do is it has to angle itself so that the gravitation from the planet itself compensates for the warp gravitational waves coming in.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Let's have you roll control plus engineering. I'll give you an extra die for technobabble. In my Star Trek, you'll always be able to technobabble to get extra dice.
And I have a focus of astrophysics.
Ooh, I like that. Use it. Three successes. So that is good. You guys are going to have get an extra success for which I'll just go ahead and toss into the momentum there. And you call up to the con officer up there. You do the quick calculations. They will turn the ship. And you know how on Star Trek, when they're having trouble with the transporter, like, oh, maybe they aren't going to be able to transport them in. There's that wavering bit, and then it fades out, and then it comes back in again. We get that effect of the 5 of you. Like, you might not make it. Oh, yes. Oh, they pull the little lever down all the way to push the power to maximum, and they're able to transport you five up to the ship. So we would cut to you guys back on board. So we've got our con officer, we've got our engineer, we've got science. We kind of know what they're going to have to deal with, and we'll come around to them. Then we'll cut to the medical officer. So I'm going to deal with him and this your rescued person, and then I'm going to come to check in with the three of you. How does that sound? Okay. So to Prel, tell me about what it looks like in the sick bay.
So, I mean, first off, immediately once we get transported back, I start giving commands to get this person that we took off the planet to medical and have them strapped down so that they don't try and escape.
Okay. So when we come into the sick bay, we see, it's on the table with the little readings up above it, and they're strapped to the table with that sort of shimmering cloth thing. Nurses are kind of standing there doing the woo, 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 woo thing around. What's your next step?
So I am going to. I assume there's some kind of drug or something that can wake someone up from being stunned, and try to wake them up. As long as I don't see any serious medical issues that I need to address first, that would be better suited for them to still be out.
You're getting some weird readings. So, do you want to kind of try to do a diagnosis on him first?
Sure.
Okay. So that's going to be control plus medicine.
Okay.
And you get an extra die for the ship systems.
So I wanted to look something up real quick. All right, so you said it's
control plus medicine with an extra die.
All right. Medicine. Okay. And let's see. I have emergency medicine and surgery as a couple of focuses.
This is more of a diagnosis thing, so I'm not going to give you a focus on that one.
Yeah. I'm not sure what virology is.
I don't know either.
That's what I was trying to look up.
Glad I put that on the sheet then. That's your GM.
I'm not getting a very. I'll look more into it here in a little bit. So, all right.
Two successes.
All right.
So it looks like what the situation is that psychosomatic compound that you found in the liquid. Mm-hmm. He's got that.
I probably took a sample with me.
Oh yeah. He's got that all in his system, and it's probably driving him. He may not have even understood what Natala was saying. So you need to work out a counter agent to that will neutralize it, and B, deal with his horrible, probably withdrawal symptoms from it.
Yeah, I'm gonna flush his system and figure out something to do.
Now, here is the question I'm going to put to you before I cut away. That's going to take a while. On the other hand, you could give him a stimulant and try and bring him to semi-consciousness. It might cause long-term problems, but you might be able to get information out of him. So I'm going to cut away from you on that note there. Let's come to our con officer. So the captain looks to you, and Lieutenant Zhang, you have the con.
Thank you, sir.
And you can feel it. The ship is being pulled. The gravitational pull from that wormhole has increased, and it's dragging the ship towards it. Right now, they're rerouting power to try and compensate, but it's meaning that they're having to shut down some secondary systems. So, what do you want to do?
Let's see. So, it's a gravity well. What is the reason that we would stay where we currently are?
Well, you're exploring new worlds, but right now the difficulty. You mean staying in the orbit or staying in the system?
Right. Yeah. Like, why would we stay in orbit versus just moving to the other side of the planet or moving out of the system? Is there, because we've rescued the person who was setting off the distress signal?
Yeah, that seems to have been solved. And yes, if you can break away, then you have no reason necessarily to stay at this point.
Okay.
But it is a pretty heavy wormhole effect that's dragging you in there.
All right. Well, everyone hold on. I think she is going to try to fly the ship to safety using the extra power from rerouting everything as they've already started. And the hope here is similar to she's borrowing from how we were able to get off of the planet and try to use the gravitational pull of the planet that we are currently orbiting to give us a little bit of a boost.
I like that. Let's go ahead and let's have you roll. And that definitely seems like con. And let's have con plus daring.
All right. That sounds good to me.
Are there helping rules in this system?
There are. How is engineering assisting on this?
So I think whenever I come into engineering, I've got the strategic rip on the shoulder where the arrow kind of went in and everything, and in the uniform, and I shout, report to one of the engineering underlings. I have engineering department as an advantage, and then I turn around and I start rerouting power to boost like the warp engines so that Khan will have full ability to make the maneuvers that are necessary to get us out.
All right, so you can make a reason plus engineering roll, and we'll pool all your successes.
Okay.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so I think this has to do with propulsion systems. Would you know
okay.
And navigation. Great. Do we have any momentum that is out there in the pool that I could spend?
There's 3 momentum in the pool.
I am greedily taking one.
Okay.
And using it. And then I have a focus, so hopefully. And we're pooling successes, we're both rolling, right?
Yep.
I think that's
yep.
Okay.
That's the way we do that.
Excellent.
4 successes.
And then I have warp drive.
Okay.
As a focus. 1.
But still, that's 5 successes.
Nice.
So this thing is strong. And you will actually burn out some of the batteries in the warp nacelles. And there's that structure. You guys can feel it. And there's that pull on the ship. And everybody has to do this. And then everybody has to do this. Okay, as you're pulling away from it. And you're able to get yourself some distance and get yourself in a stable holding position here. And It looks like you're going to be able to pull away. You definitely have stopped yourself from falling into this thing. It's a bizarre thing, and it seems to be increasing in strength, and you're a little worried about that. Let's come to our science officer while this is going on.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Now, what species was this person we brought back? Was this human?
Definitely, definitely human.
And it was a Romulan debris and shuttle, or
no, the shuttle was a Federation shuttle, actually pre-Federation.
Okay.
Romulan, which actually lines up because it's about 100 years since the first Romulan War, and the age of that shuttle pod matches up. It's really old style.
So you think so the shuttle and that matches up time wise with what I remember from history that the war had gone on,
right?
And we think he hadn't been there any longer than like 6 years.
The shuttle's chronometer and him both show only 6 years.
Okay. I kind of want to run some calculations on how that kind of distortion, or how much energy would cause that kind of distortion, and measure that against what this wormhole here is putting out, and see if they're related.
Oh yeah, it's definitely related. That's no question.
Okay. And
a wormhole, bizarre behavior in that it has increased in size where it was modest before. So you're not sure what's going on with that.
So is it up to a power level where yes, it could do that, or was it at that power level before? I'll kind of look at sensor data from when we left the ship until we came back.
Then I would say definitely, yeah, it was doing that before. It's probably getting even worse now.
Okay, so it could have. I guess what I'm asking is, was it not strong enough to actually cause that time effect then, and now it is up to that?
No, it was strong enough to cause that time effect. It was strong enough to cause that time effect before, and now it's even worse.
Okay. I'm going to suggest to the captain, Captain, from this data that I have, it looks like the wormhole caused some weird time effect. That debris and the shuttle that were down there looked like they were roughly 100 years old. My suggestion is we get out of orbit here and back up to a safe range of, and I start reading off some numbers. What
can you tell me about the wormhole? I mean, you're giving me an event horizon, but what do we know about it?
Well, let me take one more second here. I'm going to start kind of analyzing maybe the frequencies of energy that are coming off of it, and
that sounds like reason plus science.
Okay.
You've got 2 momentum in the pool.
Reason plus science. And what does momentum do? That adds to the pool.
So what you could do is you could spend a momentum to give yourself an extra die.
Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. So that'll put me at 3d20, right?
Yes.
And I'm looking at it for energy, quantum mechanics related stuff.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's see what we get.
Ooh, okay. 3 successes.
Yes.
So you've managed to get yourself kind of to a safe distance. You know that kind of holding position. You will do a sensor sweep over this. Even with the sensor damage, you're able to detect 2 ships in that wormhole.
Coming out of it, or
no,
stuck in it?
Caught in it. One of them you can't identify. It's giving, it looks like it's at the center of the wormhole, and it's giving all kinds of anomalous readings. But the other ship looks like a pre-Federation vessel. And
historical craft, maybe something.
It looks to you like it's the NCS Atlantis. Quick run through the records on the computer. When you ask it, it will say the NCS Atlantis is a ship lost during the First Federation Romulan War. Working.
Interesting. Can we sense life or anything on either of those two vessels, or is there too much distortion for that? Or
oh, you got 3 successes, and you did a nice focus thing. There are life signs on the Atlantis. It looks like 50-some life signs on the Atlantis.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and I'm reporting these things to the captain that you're not going to believe what's stuck in that wormhole, and I'll go over the codes and everything that are coming back from their ships that kind of prove, oh, this ship is whatever.
And Captain El-Tanin will pause there with that and to kind of see her,
that perplexed look.
Yeah. And she'll engineering, con, science. I want you to give me options. And we'll cut from there to the med bay, to the sick bay. To Prel, what do you want to do?
So I don't want to wake him up. I want to try and do what I can to save him, but I was thinking it could be quite dangerous, but to try and get some quick information from him, try a Vulcan mind meld.
Okay. I like that.
It could be quite dangerous because a mind on psychotropic drugs, who knows what the hell you're going to get.
That's really interesting. I like it. So let's see.
Don't have anything specific to that.
I think it's going to be control plus command. Oh no, okay. Let's say either control or presence plus command.
Okay.
And this is a risky operation.
Yeah. I would think it would be control.
Okay. You have 1 momentum left in the pool.
I think I am going to take it.
Okay.
Unless y'all miss that.
I'll just put that down here. Okay.
So that means I roll with 3.
3d10, 3d20.
All right. And don't really think any of my focuses work.
Okay. So describe to me what that looks like.
Yeah, so typically with doing a mind meld, you don't actually have to touch the person, but it's enhanced when you do. And so, place my hand in the right spots on the face, and kind of I just close my eyes and start trying to wander through their mind and figure out where they came from or what's happened.
you get that ominous music in Star Trek that they always do when someone does a mind meld because it's real serious business. That as you do the recitation, my mind to your mind, our mind is one, and you will get a series of flashes. The experience of this lieutenant, pre-Federation lieutenant, of them being in the war against the Romulans, of them having pursued a Romulan bird of prey and having actually managed to evaded the mines that it dropped and actually damaged it, and it crashing, doing the final fire and hitting it and it crashing out of orbit. And this lieutenant, he and his team sent down on the shuttle pod to investigate, landing the shuttle pod, finding nothing salvageable in the debris, but then communications dropped. Their ship, the Atlantis, pulled out of orbit into the wormhole that was there. That happened 6 years ago. It was yanked out of orbit. They lost communication. They tried desperately to do that, and then it was just him and his team. And 6 years, as one by one, the people with him died, poisoned by the planet, killed by that moss, driven to despair, until there was only him left, drinking that water and that madness infecting him, waiting for the day when the Romulans would come back. That's what he saw when he saw you guys land. There would have been that shimmer, and he would have seen Romulans there, not Federation people, that kind of paranoia and madness. And that's what you will get from that mind meld. Does that seem cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, there's usually some kind of general, knowledge throughout the ship of what's going on.
Oh yeah, always assume that. Yeah.
So I probably, go over to the monitor and, see all this stuff about, the Alliance and another ship stuck in there, and I'll come over the comms and let them know what I just found out, that this person came from the Alliance. That seems perhaps this wormhole is doing some kind of time displacement. We should be wary of, this other ship might be the Romulans they were fighting against.
And we'll cut from there to a shot of you four around the table, Captain El Tanin there, and we get the captain's log supplemental. Lieutenant Zhang has managed to get us in a stable orbit against the wormhole. We can leave at any time, but at the price of abandoning a Federation ship and officers. We now face a difficult choice. And Captain El Tanin, we cuts and looks at you and options. Lieutenant Zhang?
I would need to confer with our science officers, but would a wormhole impact the ability to beam on board? I'm relatively familiar with this ship, and there are some options that perhaps they haven't considered.
It's interesting. Early model ships like the Atlantis would have had rudimentary transporter facilities, if any. They would have had the most basic things, and from what I recall from the history books, they probably would have avoided using them given the suspect technology involved.
Well, a shuttle is also a possibility. I'm sure that we could easily reach them since the wormhole is pulling.
The transporter seems to me, I can't afford to send anybody in a shuttle given the pull. We barely got the ship out as it was.
So, Captain, I have an option. I have an idea. We could have we could use a shuttle as a booster for the transporter, for the transport signal itself. I think from this distance, we wouldn't be able to transport anyone off of that ship. However, if we use the shuttle and park it halfway, we could compensate for the gravity distortion and start to pull off the crew members that are left on that ship, abandoning the ship but saving the crew.
It's an interesting idea. Boosting the transporter, and then using that as a relay system. That's ingenious.
So here's a question. Before we had our meeting here, maybe I had somebody analyzing that wormhole a little bit. When we moved to a distance away from it, did we notice whether that wormhole decreased in intensity?
Did not. In fact, it seems to be still growing.
Still getting bigger. It hasn't stopped growing, so it is still growing. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the shuttle option is the most sound way to get the beam into the ships over there. I was curious as to whether the anomaly had anything to do with the mass of our ship being in proximity to it, but it does not appear to be so. I'd also like to get some of the data from their ship, and I think in addition
got some
to
of that mold then.
In addition to running that
alien spores.
Too much talking. In addition to sending the transporter beam, it would be beneficial to pull some data along with that.
That may not be possible. We might have to have somebody on board right now. Whew. Well, I think it's going to require the doctor to see what he can do about the dangers, the rigors of transports at that distance. We're going to have to rig up this chain of shuttlecraft held by the tractor beam to maintain it, and we're going to have this boosted.
Yes, there's no time to hesitate. Let's do this quickly.
All right. So I'm going to have each of you make a roll, and I want you to tell me. Make your roll. I'll let you choose what you want to roll with, and I'm going to come to you. I'm going to ask you what you're rolling with, and then you're going to describe your part in the montage that is happening here. Does that sound cool? Right now, the base difficulty for everything is 2. So each of you needs to get 2 successes. So let's start with T'Prell. T'Prell, describe to me what your part is in this complicated operation that you guys are getting the ship set, and you're getting these shuttles out, and you've got the tractor beam, and then this wormhole in distance. What's your part in all this?
I think I am preparing the med bay for intake for anyone who may be injured, and especially if we have some sort of teleporter accident. We got to be ready for that.
Okay. Getting that data set for that. How many successes did you get?
I have not rolled yet.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking, because of this being kind of a crazy plan, daring plus medicine.
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Since I'm preparing for any kind of medical emergency, would emergency medicine apply?
Oh, I like that. That's really goobing the rules. So yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, 3 successes. Okay.
Sweet.
Tell me then, Natala, how are you contributing to this plan?
Okay. I think what I'm doing is I've got this talent. It says I know my ship. So it says whenever you attempt a task to determine source of technical problem with your ship, add 1 to the bonus, or 1 bonus d20. I think what I'm going to do is I am trying to determine the amount of energy that engineering is going to need to push at that signal to make that connection and maintain that connection over a period of time.
All right. Let's have you roll.
So that would be, what do you think? Would that be
that sounds like reason plus science.
Reason plus science? Okay. Okay. And it's sensor operations involved?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Okay. And we got 2 successes.
2 successes. Okay. So you're getting that set. The shuttles are going out. Let's cut to our chief engineer.
So, what is advantage?
Advantage is essentially you create an aspect that other people can use to give themselves bonus dice or to change a fictional situation, that kind of thing.
Okay. So whenever I'm aboard the ship, I have an advantage of engineering department, which represents the ship's complement of engineers and technicians. So that means that if anyone else needs that, they can use that kind of tag, right?
Or you can, use it for an extra die.
Yeah. Okay. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm trying to compensate for the time dilation that's going to happen in the gravitational waves through this transporter wave. And I've kind of done some of these calculations or some of this compensation previously from whenever we got off the planet in order to see how the planet's gravitational waves interfere with the waves from the wormhole. So I'm going to make a reason plus engineering.
Okay.
I have a testing a theory, which is whenever I attempt a task using engineering, I can add 1 additional d20 as long as I have completed a previous task covering the same discipline earlier in the game session.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah. And I have a focus of astrophysics, which I think makes
That
sense.
sounds perfect. We got 4.
Yep.
All right. So you're getting that set. And then tell me, Zhang, what are you doing to get this whole crazy shuttle, transporter plan into operation?
I'm the shuttle expert. I volunteer to pilot us out to within centimeters of the last perimeter that we calculated, and making sure to reroute power within the shuttle to help boost any aspect of the signal that I can.
Okay. Let's have you roll. That sounds like, oh gosh, daring plus con?
Sure. And I do have shuttlecraft as a focus.
Excellent.
I failed. With a red as well. That is terrible.
So you will get this transporter thing set up, and it is pretty operational. You've got a window, but you will realize that you're going to need to go over there onto the ship and get people organized. You're going to have to get them into the transport room on the Atlantis to be able to get them out. You can't, I mean, you can do it, but you can't do it from here. Somebody has to go over.
We can't pull this off from here. We have to have them in the transporter room to boost the signal for us to be able to localize. We can't scatter their atoms across the universe.
I will volunteer to be on that.
You wanted information, Lieutenant. Lieutenant Tala, you willing to go over?
I think it's almost a necessity. I mean, there's better chances the more of us of our team that's experienced this problem that goes.
Perfect. And Lieutenant Dell, I hate to ask you to do this, put yourself at risk, but we're going to need your expertise over there.
I think that their ship is important, but the people on it are more important, and I think we'll be able to take care of that.
Excellent. And so we would cut to the shot of you guys getting ready to do this crazy-ass transporter tech thing. It's crazy. Essentially, it's like a sequenced transporter with a boost from the shuttlecraft's engines. Here, the USS Gauntlet sort of angling itself there. You get into the transporter bay, and you guys will beam over. We do that effect there as you beam over, and the four of you will find yourselves in a really old style transport chamber. The kinds of ones where they've got the gel to wipe you down and stuff if you were to come up and things. The real old place. And it is, the light here is dim. It's clearly on minimal power here. And you guys will walk over to the doors. You have to do that manual pull to open them up. And as you open them up, you will hear of laser fire. As you can see in the hallway outside, there is some kind of battle. Phasers firing back and forth. People fight. There's some kind of war going on here. And that's where we're going to stop for tonight. I hope that's okay, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You guys are welcome for my failure. You could have missed out on this awesome fight if I hadn't blown that roll.
We'll stop a little early. Do you guys mind doing a quick roses and thorns on this? I wouldn't normally, but I kind of stopped a little early, and because it's just a good high point for this. The episode would end here.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the cliffhanger on a two-parter.
I think Zane should have got shot.
Oh yeah,
I'm not here.
How about that? That's the thing is the blast hits you. Oh, Zang falls back into there. Dun dun dun.
You get shot, or do you disappear in the transport?
Oh, which is
Oh, it's terrifying. Disappear in the transport, man. He does that.
And then we would cut to the
random matter.
Nice. You didn't even license new music. I love it.
I suppose they would do like a variation on that. They do their own thing. So let's talk roses and thorns. I'm going to start here with thorns. Games that have a lot of the science stuff where you're picking up things through systems and stuff, I always find challenging because you've got that parrot effect where you make a roll, the GM tells you something, and then you have to tell the rest of the crew. That sort of weird thing. I always worry about that. I don't know if I handled handing out the information as well as I could have today. So I'm still thinking about that. So that's my thorn, trying to figure it out. Josh, thorns?
I just kind of the technology, just with my issues that I had, and then I was kind of having trouble figuring out this Roll20 thing, but now I think I've figured it out pretty good. So.
Yeah, it is several stages to roll a die, which I find kind of amusing. You know, the kind of thing if you were at a table, you'd be like, roll. Okay, now I got it, you know?
Yeah. I'm like, now I'm like, oh, okay, I can move this window over so I can actually see the conversation where the rolls are showing up, because I was having to like open the playbook, roll, close the playbook, move over there.
Yeah. So. Rich, thorns?
Super thankful for the Roll20. I don't think I could have pulled this off without it. It was very helpful. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds like a rose, but it's basically the thorn of like, wow, there are a lot of steps to doing anything, which you already talked about, and I'm kind of parroting it. You're parroting. That's a neat phrase. I wonder if in the game, if we had, because we're doing Roll20, so of course it's less useful. But like in my mind, I was thinking like, oh, if we had a Google spreadsheet and we just had a clues or science information tab, because even with the parroting, even with that, like there were times where I was lost. Like, okay, we got mountains. Okay, wait, somebody got shot. Okay, wait. Now, again, I'm the worst player for figuring shit out. Like, there's a point during this game where I wrote to Paul, because, you know, just a side chatter. I said, I should not have taken this spot from other people who are good at investigation. I'm so lost. And then I said, I've just decided to be the color commentator for a bit, which was the other thing, right? We're so busy trying to figure things out that like no one is, we got to it. But early on, I had concerns like nobody's actually expressing their character because we're all like figuring shit out. And that's where, for me, role-playing games fall down. Like I wanted to, like when Natala was curious about a thing, that was cool. But if it's just like, okay, what is the environment like? Okay, what is the water like? Okay, I'm going to check my tricorder. I could give two shits about that. Like box text the fuck out of that. Like just hand it to me, because I want to see how we figure out what it is. And like the sifting for clues, like I do not have the head for it. This is all me again. Like some people super dig that. Like Call of Cthulhu is popular for a reason. I am an outlier here, but that's my thing. I was like, oh god.
No, but I think that's a really good point. Is because it's sort of structured like a show, and because there's all this tech stuff, I didn't give the scenes room to breathe and to have you guys interact. So that I have to think about that, because because I do want to, because the scenes where you guys were able to play yourselves were much more interesting. So that's a good comment.
Cool. And then this last like thorn, like watching us struggle through coming up with tech jargon at times was like, oh my god, this is so silly. Like I saw one time someone had like a 3-step table to come up with the Star Trek jargon.
Right.
And like I just want to roll on that table and just go on. I'll say whatever you want me to say. But like me trying to come up with the transphase inducer shift array, like Ugh, it's crazy.
Oh, but that's part of the genre. Gotta be able to.
That's why I want a
make up-
table. I just want a table so I can emulate the genre without having to
Give me a pick list. Yeah.
pick.
I should
But
have a link to that kind of a Babel generator for
Yeah, man.
players.
Yeah, I think that'd be
That's
good.
fair enough.
I'm sorry I thorned so much.
Oh, Jesus, Rich. I'm gonna cry now.
man.
Stephen Thorns.
So I struggled a little bit with the system, I guess. The complication of, you adding two stats together, rolling below, adding a focus. There's a lot of jargon, like on the character sheet and stuff like that. Like, what does advantage do? That kind of thing. I think Roll20 helped a lot because it's a few clicks to get there, but it streamlines some of the rest of the system. And I'm guessing that character creation and the system itself is complicated enough that it could be painful.
It's actually much easier than you would think it would be because they do kind of like, okay, what kind of career path do you want? And it's pretty simple to add those things together. But yeah, this system has. I think it wants to be easier because it's much easier than the other versions they've done of it, but they haven't quite closed the deal to make it really simple.
You mentioned advantages were sort of like aspects. Is that the same? And we have a list of values. Are those also like aspects kind of things?
Yes, they are. Actually, you have those determination points. Everybody starts with one, and you can spend that to give yourself a bonus d20 to take another action or create advantage. You associate that with one of your values. Like my value is this, so I'm going to spend a 20 determination to do this thing. And you can challenge your values to get more determination during play.
And I think that part of this is me. I'm used to a lot simpler systems where you mark a couple of boxes in 15 minutes you're in, and then you can start playing. Whereas this, there's more to the system, so it takes a little bit more to get into it.
Yeah, I agree. Victor?
I think the thing that I had the harder time with, and it's kind of why I kind of pulled Rich in the one scene to kind of, it was the lack of interaction between us. So kind of getting a scene. So here's the scene. Here's the situation you're in. What do you and you do? Or that kind of thing that kind of pushes. So if you think maybe it's a sciencey type issue, maybe have the con and the doctor in there. They're out of their depth. Maybe see what they do. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing, because those are always fun on the shows when you get the characters that don't know how to deal with the situation, having to deal with the situation. But
that's really good feedback.
A little more interaction would have been a lot better.
Yeah, and just as you guys are kind of struggling with the system, this, of course, I'm still figuring it out. So I'm glad to have that feedback and to know that I need to be leaning into that more next time, getting more character moments, and the module has here's the role and the information that you get. So there's a question of presentation there. Though when we get into this next part, it's a little more interactive. So I hope to bring that to bear. You can kind of
tell that the game wants to be two different things compared to the older Star Trek games. This is dirt simple. This is crazy simple compared to the older Star Trek games. So it's like they want this Star Trek game, but it still feels like a very traditional structure.
Yeah. And I think that's a product of the 2D20 system.
Yeah. So
now that we've made me rethink my style for tonight. So I loved it when you guys bought into the Star Trek sort of trappings And those were the bits that I loved tonight. So those were the moments that made me happy, and I have to keep that in mind. So that's what I dug. Josh, any roses?
I really enjoyed all of it. It was kind of fun at the end when Rich mentioned, since he's not coming back, his character should have something horrible happen to her. So that was kind of fun because it was like, yeah, red shirt.
Awesome. Rich, roses?
Absolutely a punch. First of all, I came into this game. I signed up for all three, but because of life stuff, I could only attend this one. So thank you for letting me stay. And I wanted to learn the system first and foremost because I have another group of folks who are desperate to play it. So I wanted to see if I could learn it well enough to run it. And I learned a lot from playing it with you. So thank you for that. I love the juxtaposition of we're playing this game, but we're also kind of poking fun at the original Star Trek. Some of the camera angle bits, the like using certain uniforms, the movement. Everybody was really having a good time grooving with that. That was super fun. Like it was almost the Orville, but not in that we didn't make any stupid, terrible dick jokes. Because thank God we don't. Orville, otherwise good. I didn't mind the setup. Like it's interesting. It's very Star Trek. Like it was almost like tick the box. Okay, we're gonna have a time anomaly. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna have another Star Trek guy. Cool. We get to have some Romulan stuff. Like it hit all those pleasure centers of Star Trek lore that were not so dense that like I needed to know more than just a very superficial amount of Star Trek. So that was great. I like that everybody heard me describe a neophyte character and leaned into that. Thank you very much. Even though she outranks all of you and you play pranks on her, and that's great. That was very fun for me. So yeah, it was good. I really liked the mix of characters, and I would super watch this show.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Stephen, roses?
Yeah, in general, I liked the way that the Star Trek trope really came out in play. I think a part of that is how everyone leaned into their characters and, did what their characters on a TV show, a Star Trek TV show would do. I think that fit really well. I think at least the way that the pre-gens are set up kind of pushes you towards playing towards your strengths. And I think that also evokes part of the show. So yeah, I think that was my favorite part, was how everybody kind of leaned in and made the silly jokes and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Victor, you get last word.
I think my favorite bit about it was it's Star Trek. I haven't played a Star Trek anything in ages. I like the simple character sheets. I'm used to the older Star Trek games, so I'm used to you've got to know a ton of stuff, and there are thousands of skills, and it's detail all over the place. And I was kind of concerned. The other thing I was kind of concerned with, which I probably shouldn't have because it's a Gauntlet game, was I've got to know all this Star Trek stuff. I mean, I've always been a fan of Star Trek, but I don't pay attention to all the details. I just have fun watching the episodes. And it was fun and smooth, and we just played Star Trek. I mean, it was just simple.
I'll agree with you on that, because I totally I enjoy Star Trek, but I've never really gotten into it. So I've never there's a lot of stuff I had to look up the Vulcan mind meld to make sure I knew what the hell I was talking about.
Yep.
Oh, that was a great moment, by the way. Let me call that out as a really cool, not in your character sheet, great bit.
Yep, definitely.
And you roll with it really well, Lowell. That was a highlight scene. Absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I've got a friend that's very into Star Trek, and he would love the details.
Yeah,
And he would have fun with that, but it would be over my head.
I have 2 Star Trek serious goobers in our group, and I've never really been one. So
There you go.
thank you guys so much. Rich, I'm sorry you're not joining us. I'm sorry your character vanished into the void.
Saying we all
had a
like
good
to.
one. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast.